Today, I'm going for a first run in the New Balance FuelCell TC. 10.56 miles, 7 minutes, 43 seconds per mile, 154 beats per minute today, taking the New Balance FuelCell TC out for a first run. Not exactly doing a fartlek, but kind of doing a 1 mile off, 1 mile on at a little bit under marathon pace or marathon effort for the on. So not really pushing it too hard out there, but getting it into some of my faster paces, at least for me, to give this shoe really a test. And before I get into my thoughts on how this shoe did for the run for today, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that I purchased with my own money. No one sent it to me or is going to reimburse me for the purchase price of the shoes. And no one's paying me to make this video or to wear the shoes. And no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. Now, with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the New Balance FuelCell TC. This is a shoe that I've been pretty excited about trying for a while. What we have is what New Balance calls a high rebound carbon plated shoe. We've got a bunch of FuelCell foam in this shoe. It's got a really high stack height, 30 millimeters in the back, and you definitely feel all that stack height. It feels like a bit of a tall shoe. The upper is an engineered mesh, which is nice and comfortable, very airy. You can pretty much see through it in a lot of spots. The fit is definitely a bit snug. You're gonna feel like you're stepping into a racing shoe when you put your feet in here. I felt a little bit snug on the left foot, which is kind of like that left pinky toe for me is my barometer for, is this a racer fit shoe or not? This is definitely a racing fit shoe. In the heel, it's almost like a mullet of a shoe where it's like business in the front, party in the back. So it feels like a racer from here on up in the upper. In the back, you've got a lot of padding in this area back here, at least for like a marathon race shoe, in this little heel flare. And you've got a pretty substantial heel cup here, which is not something that I typically see in a race shoe. In race shoes, the heel area back here, it's usually pretty floppy, but this one, there's a lot of structure back here, and it feels more like a relaxed trainer than it does feel like the racer in the front. On the outsole, we've got a bunch of rubber up in front, and the foot shape pattern is very distinct, something we've seen in other New Balance shoes before, like their 5280, their miler, which I haven't run in, but in other shoes that I have run in, like the New Balance FuelCell Rebel. Now, when I'm talking about the midsole here, in terms of the foam, it's super soft. Now they say it's FuelCell foam that's in the midsole, but it doesn't feel like the FuelCell foam that's in the Rebel that I've run in. I mean, maybe it is, but I have a feeling that they've tweaked it for this shoe to make it a little bit softer. But it also could just be that there's so much more of it that's in this shoe. And what it really kind of feels like to me, it's like there's almost like they doubled up the foam on the FuelCell Rebel if you have experience running in that shoe. And on the bottom part of it, it feels like the bottom part is like the regular FuelCell Rebel foam, and on the top is almost like a crumple zone of foam that's in here. So the feeling of it is like the top layer, you don't sink into it, but you definitely feel cushioning. There's a softness to it there that's really pleasant and very noticeable. And I think that they're doing a great job with this FuelCell foam, whether it's a different formulation or if it just behaves differently when there's that much more of it. The nice part about it is, even though you do get that nice kind of not sinking feeling, but that softness that absorbs the impact as you're hitting the ground, that carbon fiber plate, it's a full length carbon fiber plate and it's well tuned, at least for my foot strike and my weight. and maybe my gait and speed, but I feel like I'm hitting the ground, getting the benefit of the soft part of that fuel cell foam, but that carbon fiber plate is pushing me off nicely, so that way I don't get stuck in the gait cycle with a shoe that's too mushy. And so it's a really pleasant feeling. I'm getting a really strong carbon fiber plate feeling in it, something that reminds me a lot in terms of the carbon fiber plate of the Carbon Rocket from Hoka, and also the Zoom Fly 3. That carbon fiber push-off feel that was really prominent and something that I really felt was exciting. I'm feeling that same kind of carbon fiber plate in this one. And not all carbon fiber plates are equal. Each one kind of is tuned different, shaped different, so they can all feel a little bit different. This is one that has been very exciting for me because I can really feel the benefit of the carbon fiber plate. It doesn't feel like a shoe that has carbon for the sake of carbon. You definitely feel like there's a purpose to it. In terms of the stack height, in terms of the running feel, it felt a little bit unstable, is the only kind of drawback of all this foam, is that it was really high. And while this weird kind of unusual foot pattern here in terms of the footprint of the shoe, I thought would kind of take away any of that wobbliness that you might sense with some other high stack height shoes, I didn't really feel the benefit of it. Now in the FuelCell Rebel, the outsole pattern is a little bit different. There's almost like a little wing on the side that I think provides a little extra stability. I was kind of wishing that there was a little bit more of that here. I took some sharp turns on this particular run today, running city streets because my normal routes are all closed right now. And on some of those sharp turns, I definitely felt a little hesitant in terms of trying to go really aggressive to cut those 90-degree corners. But overall, I felt pretty locked in terms of the upper, so at least in that regard, everything felt fine there. The other aspect about all this foam that I think could possibly be a deterrent is that it seems a bit heavy. Now, this shoe comes in at 9.3 ounces and an 8mm heel drop. The heel drop and the geometry on the shoe feel great, but that 9.3 ounces, I definitely felt it on foot. You definitely feel it in hand when you're holding the shoe. Would that amount of weight really detract me from choosing this as a potential marathon racer? I don't think so, because I like everything else that's going on in this shoe together. The way that you kind of sink into the foam initially when your feet first hit the ground in that top part of the fuel cell. I don't know that it's two parts, but it just feels like there's kind of two stories going on. And so the sink in with the carbon fiber plate spring back, it just works for me in a way that feels like I'm getting a really great push from the shoe, but also that I feel like my foot can really take the impact over the course of miles for this. I wish it were a little bit lighter. I think they could have saved a lot of weight kind of in this back area here in terms of what's going on with this shoe. I'm not sure we needed all this structure, but I'm just picking nits at this point. If we could have shaved like half an ounce to an ounce, that would make this just a no-brainer for me. But at 9.3 ounces for the stated weight, it sounds heavy and it feels a little bit heavy for me, but I'm having a really great time in it. I'm gonna have no problem, I think, putting in a bunch of miles on this shoe just because I had a lot of fun with it. So those are my thoughts on the FuelCell TC after just the first run. Subscribe if you wanna see updates on this shoe, especially as I get it to some higher mileage and get to run into a little bit more. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hope you guys stay safe on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?